Hello friends and customers of the SMR Group. Of course also hello to our competitors here. It's time again for the new reflection of the week on the stainless steel industry, and as announced a week ago, I will talk this time about stainless steel scrap. Never call it waste. Scrap is a very valuable thing. And because it's so valuable, it's also has a price tag. And actually for a normal stainless steel producer outside China and Indonesia, it is the by far biggest individual cost factor. If you have a nickel price like today at $13,000 per ton, and if you have scrap ratios of 80 or more percent, the scrap price alone makes up more than 40% of your overall production cost in the case of cold rolled products in 304 grade. Okay, for this today's reflection, I have again prepared 3 slides, and I'm going through them right now. The first slide here shows the basic scrap types. The first one is revert scrap. That's the scrap that arises whilst you produce stainless steel. From the melt shop down to the finishing of coils, you have in each department a certain amount of yield loss, and some of this yield loss can be remelted. It's about, the volume is around on average 11% of the crude steel production usually, and within 1 month this scrap is available for remelting. The second type is first use scrap or new scrap, and this is 5 to 25% of the 300 series consumption in each end-use segment, and usually within 6 months the fabricators ship that back to the mills and it can be remelted somewhere in the world. And then the next one is end-use scrap, end of the life scrap, old scrap, and here you see that the recycling ratio is only on average 70% worldwide, and this recycling ratio goes up and down with the price level, because sometimes if prices, nickel prices or scrap prices are too low, people just wait for a few months until they release the scrap that they are having. And the last type of scrap is so-called blended scrap. Blended scrap is provided by very sophisticated scrap suppliers, processors, which buy nickel in various forms and blend cocktails together actually in order to meet the specifications of their customers. And here it's very clear, it makes no sense to buy class 1 scrap and put it in there, because the scrap pricing is on a discount basis to primary metal levels. And so the key issue for blended scrap is how many nickel units are available on discount prices to blend them into scrap. Overall, 2019 we had 13 million tons of scrap worldwide, of which 2.8 million tons were revert scrap. Now what COVID did here was, in the time of the lockouts, the first use scrap significantly has been reduced, and also the end-use scrap from demolition activities, for example, has been reduced, whilst the melt shops were still asking for scrap. So from April on, we had a certain tightness in the scrap market, not enough scrap generated for what the melt shop needed. Then the melt shops, as we discussed it in earlier reflections on the week, reduced their production, and the scrap availability came back up as the lockdowns were finalized and the fabricators started to produce again. And now we have an absolute sufficient scrap situation in Europe, whilst in North America it was tight until a week or 2 ago, but now also there the situation is changing and previous price increases are probably coming down. This slide here is showing the practices worldwide. You see the highest scrap ratios we have in India, which is in others here, where many producers use induction furnaces, which use 90 or more percent scrap. Then America, where traditionally we had a very high scrap availability, and they always maximize their scrap ratios. Then Europe a little bit lower, and then in the rest of the world you see significant lower levels. Other Asia, which is increasingly dominated by Indonesia, which is using very low scrap ratios, and particularly China, who prefers MPI, has low scrap ratios, but you see it's tending up, because in China, where there is virtually no scrap import, the domestic availability as the market matures is becoming better and better. But of course it will take many, many years until they could be on levels like the Europeans or the Americans. Globally, we had 43% scrap ratio worldwide, which was higher than in the previous years, as you can see. So now when we compare the cost for a stainless steel producer, if he's using MPI or if he's using primarily scrap, you see here on a monthly basis, we compared here the scrap advantages, the cost advantages, and in the earlier periods, 2013 to 2015, you see the Chinese had a significant cost advantage on their side. Then from 15 to 18, it went back and forth, advantage China, advantage Europe, and now since 2018, scrap became very competitive, and for most of the month, the cost advantage was on the European or North American side here versus their Chinese competitors who are using MPI. So I hope that was interesting for you. And finally, I want to give you a few key takeaways when it comes to stainless steel scrap. Number one, scrap is the key weapon of the non-Chinese mills for their competitiveness. Number two, the scrap prices are set by supply and demand. It's a perfectly functioning market. Number three, scrap always flows to the highest bidder. There is no loyalty in the product, so to say. Number four, logistics are very important. That means if you can take scrap by bulk delivery, container, by truck or rail, it has a main impact on how competitive you are and how popular you are to the scrap suppliers. Then the next one is, at the end, the scrap market is always sold out. That means there are short-term up and destocking cycles, but at the end of the day, all the scrap that's available is also being melted in the melt shops. And then one thing to the alternatives, scrap always wins price-wise against alternatives like Class 1, Class 2 nickel, NPI. You know, scrap can go lower in price if necessary. And with this, I'd like to say thank you for this time, announce our next week's reflection, which will be about what impact does the new mobility have on stainless steel. I think also a very interesting topic. And I thank you very much. Give us your feedback again to the address that you see here. And I look forward to see many of you again. If they are not on vacation, even on vacation, you can watch the reflections. I'm sure you have an internet in your hotel. So I wish you all the best until next week. Thank you very much.